So, as we know, building across borders, ensuring that your work impacts a global space has always been challenging, yet it transcends across countries, cultures, and whatnot. And to make that story a reality, today we are joined by a very amazing, beautiful human out here, Nina Everflow. She's been the founder of Sacred Craft Collective, been working with visionary founders, figuring out the gap wherein they had no longer been interested in replicating these dormant businesses, education models, and instead they thought of building offerings and communities which are more aligned, sustainable, and in this AI centric world, deeply human. From serving the US State Department to being a part of United Nations to supporting teams in global crisis to now supporting founders and builders, design structures that are relevant. I think it's going to be a great discussion with you, Nina. Thank you so much for joining in.
It's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, to kickstart the discussion, I'd love to hear out that, from being in the diplomacy world of dealing with the government, firstly, how was that? And secondly, how did you pivot into this space? Like, you would have seen yourself being into government, changing policies, working, at the UN, shaping how world thinks about policy in general. So, what happened that you pivoted into educational models and communities for
Mhm.
founders and shifted from that side?
Yeah, I love this. I love this question so much. So I went to graduate school because I had a dream of becoming an ambassador to a country in West Africa. That was something I just wanted to do for years and years, and ended up securing a position at State Department as I was finishing up my degree in
Yeah.
international politics.
Wow.
And I, as you know, it wasn't long while I was, there at the State Department. At the time, it was headed by Hillary Clinton, and so there was a lot of, excitement about that and about what kind of difference that would inspire in some of our foreign policy.
Yeah.
But there was very shortly lived in terms of optimism from my perspective,
Right.
and it just I recognize that the United States is very interested in its economic dominance around the world, and all foreign policy is aligned to securing that position. And so my interests in humanitarian affairs, de-escalating violent conflict, right, those kinds of perspectives weren't given a lot of time, resources, or airtime, right? So I was just like, so I don't, I got faced with reality, and it was great because it was very quick. I didn't have to spend years there before coming to that resolution, and I was in the office of educational cultural affairs, and so I was helping to shape programming like the Fulbright program, the Humphrey
Oh,
program.
wow.
So these were exchange programs for professionals, and that's really what started or sparked the idea of what does the impact of international exchange have on these professionals on both sides, whether they're Americans going abroad or foreign nationals coming to the States. And there's just so much cross cultural wealth and benefit, right, that happens in those types of programs. And
Right.
so I was in it, I was lit, I wanted to know how to do more, how does this happen, what's going on internally, externally. So that then brought me to a different role in a firm that was based in DC that was serving the United Nations. And so I worked at that company for about 8 years and really had an amazing time to build leadership programming that really touched a lot of UN officers, whether they were in their home countries or stationed at different places around the globe. And what I really loved learning was not just that it was about the information, right? It was
Right.
never just about like data and statistics and even stories, right? But it was about the opportunity to learn from one another, to be touched by one another's stories, and to have these really clear, tangible ways to take something and implement it in whatever action you were responsible for. And so that really inspired me to design for application, because these are most of the people I served in the UN were working directly in really challenging environments, right? So we're talking
Right.
about famine, war torn environments, really just limited resources, all of that. Sometimes not even having internet to join the virtual class.
Oh,
So it
wow.
really just limited access. And so it really challenged us as a design team about how can we make this work as applicable, relevant, and valuable for these people, right? They don't have a lot of time to sit and simmer and figure out, okay, how can I put this into the work? It really like
Yeah.
fast tracked, right? That whole piece. And so so that's what I love to bring now to the designs and the programming that I write, that we make it applicable, we make it real for people as soon as possible, because that makes it valuable.
And to understand, it's deeper when it comes to understanding about building all these educational models and offerings, which are human centric for founders. So, as I'd love to start with first understanding that a lot of people think that when it comes to working in the education sector, you were definitely bagged with your work in the with the UN and the companies that were working for like in the policy space. But when you made the pivot, how was it to ensure that people know this is what you're doing and
Mm-hmm.
people want to work with you, like pay you for what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the background, it's so different, and what you're
Mm-hmm.
offering is connected yet slightly different. So,
Yeah.
how did you land your first deal precisely?
Yeah. Yeah. I landed my first deal actually because I had hired a book writing coach because I
Hmm.
had a book in me that I wanted to write, and she had a program, to help people write their first book.
Yeah,
And it was during that program that I realized, oh, I my book is actually about helping people write curriculum, right? Like helping
correct.
people translate their expertise into a process, a journey that other people can then absorb. And it was during that like in-person gathering and celebration after we had finished writing our books that another recent book writer was just like, well, Nina, can you help me write my course now that my book is done? And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And so she paid me a very small fee, which was fine with me because I wanted to see how I could put this together, right? So from my perspective,
Right.
it was a pilot of sorts about how could I kind of absorb the main themes of her book and then create a curriculum for her and then help create some visuals and the functionality, right? And all those pieces to stand it up on a platform. And so we were both kind of experimenting, and that met both of our needs. And so that was really the first client that I had. And then after that, I just started with that network because I knew a lot of new authors, and I also had a larger network of authors in my community. And so I was
Yeah.
just like, this is a wonderful complement so that we're not just creating courses that are replicating what's in your book. Your book is your book, but the course is the how. The course is the how do I integrate and apply the principles out of the book. And a lot of them were just really eager for that kind of a guidance.
Wow. So how did you decide, I mean, so I can understand that community is where you should talk to people and that's how you land the
Absolutely.
first place because
Mm-hmm.
that people know you. So they know that if you're
Mm-hmm.
starting something, your integrity and they know you as a person, so they would trust on the work that you're doing. So
Yeah.
with that being said, and then was it more of like a referral system wherein people are referring you and things like that, or was it something else that altogether?
Yeah, my business has really thrived on referral base because, like you said, trust is everything, particularly around this kind of topic, right? We're talking about people's IP. their signature frameworks, their expertise that they had honed for sometimes decades, right? They're not just handed that out to any kind of consultant out there, right? So I really do respect the fact that this is privileged information that I get to have a hand
Work
in.
with, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you need a lot of trust for people to come to a yes
Oh,
about
yes.
sharing their internal
Credentials.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's definitely helped that I've centered on relationship building, and creating partnerships with people. So like I said, I have my author network. I also have a network of visual designers and creators. So because when I am building a course, I like to bring in people who are much more talented than me in the visual aspect and in the
Yeah,
user
yeah.
design, right? And so they too have experts of working with content creators and experts and service providers. So we kind of just broaden our network together as we create this different kind of collaboration opportunities.
Wow. And since amidst this space wherein you're creating these courses and I'll say offerings for founders for their networks, what do you think has worked best? Like, what platform do you love using and how do you define content? Because I still remember someone I worked with once told me that when it comes to creating these courses or offerings, they need to be transformational or informational. So if you're giving me
Mm,
information, I can get it from different sources, but your frameworks or your content should bring transformation. And let's say you build something like completely like at first, and you sell, it might bomb and then you need to rework. So you sell something that's like a miniature or like MVP in the course space, like so minimum viable course or a
yes,
minimum viable offer. Test
yes,
it, see that is it transforming like low hanging fruit, let's say,
yes.
and then you do that. So I mean that's what someone who told me. But how do you work around it? What's your insight? Maybe I learned something from this part of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, even when I was sitting inside of government institutions and corporations designing learning, we would always do a pilot first, right? Because there's so many questions that you need to get answered that only get answered in the delivery of the thing. So I always
Yeah.
recommend to people, what is the minimum viable product, like you said, of this idea that you can
Right.
create without investing heavily in production, right? So a lot of people will come to me saying that they have already spent 30 hours recording and designing worksheets and workbooks and all kinds of things. And I'm just like, but you haven't sold it once. You haven't even sold it as a coaching package just to talk through the idea
Yeah.
with another human, right? So there's a lot of ways that pilots can look that I try to suggest to people that you not invest heavily in curriculum design. Just invest in the main themes that you're trying to teach out and the pathway, right? Because that's what really people are buying, is that you are a guide to get them from where they are now to where they
Two,
want to
yes,
be,
hell to
right?
heaven.
Yes, exactly. So you're not trying to solve all their problems. It's just one, thorough through, and so what is the information they need to know, and what are the practice and the behaviors that they need to apply in order to become that next version of themselves. And so I generally encourage people to like just really start small, like you said, low hanging fruit with simplicity, and confirm that it actually works before then investing in deeper design or fancier videos or all of that jazz.
And how do you confirm that? I mean, I do not. So everyone, some people have great LinkedIn following or YouTube, like they have a distribution already
Mm-hmm.
out there playing for
Mm-hmm.
them. But a lot of people do not have that distribution in
Yeah.
place. Very few people do. So do you focus on distribution first for them, or how do you plan the level one outreach for your clients out there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So by the time folks are reaching out to me, they usually already do have an audience or a network of some sort, right? They've been They've written books, they've done talks, they've, been doing this expertise for a while, and now they're ready to invest into something more sophisticated and more functional, right? Either to sell inside of corporations or to just sell directly to consumer. So when folks do come to me that are newer on the journey of like, I want to create my first digital product, maybe I'm
Yeah.
right out of school or I'm just early in my career, but I have a really great idea. And so how can I know if I can make money from it? The answer is really just like, can you find 5 people? 5 people. They could be family members, but I mean, 5 people who have the challenge that you want to solve, that your
Solve.
idea, right? Yeah, makes an impact about. So, yes, they could be family, friends, but if they're struggling with that issue, then just ask them to be a part of your pilot. And so then you teach them the idea that you have and the method and the practice opportunities. And then you listen very, very closely to what they have to say, to what their challenges are, to where they get stuck, where they complain, right? These are golden opportunities to hear what about your process needs clarification, because those challenges or pain points are pieces of the puzzle that you need to make that process more clear, more easable, and to have an easier kind of navigation through, right? And so pilots can be very simple. I've helped so many people run like pilots within a month, right? Defining out what you're going to do the first week, finding 5 people week 2, running 3 conversations, 3 webinars with those 5 people
Yeah.
in the week 3, and week 4 is evaluation. You can get it all done in just a month, and you will have so much data that will then help you strengthen what that curriculum is or that digital product needs to look like.
Wow, that's really helpful. And how when, like, let's say you're helping founders figure that out, and like these are like the first steps for them. So when it comes to like, do you also help them understand how scaling looks like as well? Like, this is how you scale, and
Mm.
like, do this, do that. So how does your road mapping usually look like for people out there? Because there are people with so much of value, so much of content. Someone is like, so
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you take me as an example. I
Mm-hmm.
have given my TED. I've been featured on different platforms, judged
Yeah.
these many competitions. Like, do you have credibility? Yes, but if I also think on these lines, I'm a bit lost as to what to do, what to offer to people, and I'm like what do you? And then because sometimes you have so many different things to offer, you're not
True.
able to understand what would people want. So
Yes.
that what and then scale. So
Yes.
how, like, what's the
Yes.
journey when you work with people?
I love this question, and I feel like you are more the norm than not, right? Because so many of us are multi-talented, multi-curious, right? There's lots of things that we could create, and that changes over time. So
Yeah,
I love that
absolutely.
you're bringing this to us. Yeah, so okay, so the piece about scaling your audience, I think, is what we're naming specifically, right? Like, how do you get in front of more people? And I like to say that every strategy works, but it doesn't work for everybody, right? And so you have to be clear about, what do you like, what energizes you, what can you imagine yourself doing day in, day out, that you can, if that it's not terribly draining, right? So for example, if someone is like naturally a writer and they love to express themselves through word, then Substack is probably a better choice than YouTube, right? Because
Right.
they're the words and their ability and the way that their energy just kind of naturally flows is going to connect with more people who then are energized by that, right? Rather than them forcing themselves to show up in front of a camera and long form explain, right? That way, or vice versa. So it's about identifying what ways can you allow your expression to show up that isn't going to create a lot of friction for yourself. And yes, we all have learning curves, right? Like, I'm fine talking to camera, but I still don't like doing it on Instagram. But I'm learning how to, right? And just challenging myself to do it anyway to
Yeah.
again grow the following and reach more people. So there's always a growth edge, but I always like to say start with where you're most comfortable right now and where you can imagine yourself just building consistency over time.
Hmm.
And I think that it's also then about finding guides or experts in that kind of
Right.
area, right? Like go invest in them and have them help you piece together a scaling plan, right? That you don't have to circle. And it doesn't even mean that you have to invest. It may just mean that you follow their Substack or you follow their YouTube and they are giving you free information, right? To go and apply to your own business. But yes, I mean, online business is going to require you to scale. It's going to require you to have an audience of some kind. I'm not in the belief that your audience has to be thousands of people. There are many viable businesses that don't have thousands of followers in all of the social media channels, right? They do just fine. So it's really about quality over quantity here and consistency. That is the key to scaling. And now I've forgotten what the other piece of your question was.
Oh, no, I mean, I totally get it. The second part of this was, I really appreciate how you've structured this out here. The second part was like identifying, like, as you mentioned, Substack. So, like, when you talk about, I've seen this community, it's called, like, Courses community. So, I've been a part of it as well. And I love how they've structured their approach. So, it's like a very valuable newsletter. And if
Mm-hmm.
you want now access to people, those who are reading the newsletter, you like have to pay X amount and you get a
Ah,
you join the community on Slack, and it's a great community out here. A lot of people uh, globally are connected, primarily like different specifics, but it's a great community for people looking for opportunities in tech and marketing and startups. So it's for like
mm-hmm.
startups, connecting startups to opportunities or founders to founders, things like that. And newsletter became the center of community. So like what has been one challenge that you solved and you figured out that this is how it works, like do this and do that, and this is how your product looks like, and this is how you can scale? Because now for a community, I don't need to stay up 24 by 7. Like when newsletter goes out, it keeps on compounding. Now of course it took time for the 0 to 1 to happen, but
Yeah.
now since it's compounding, I do not need to like 24 by 7 stay online and say who's out there, who's not there. But I know people are
Yes.
going to subscribe, and I just need to have a support or an admin system in place so that anyone who faces a problem gets
Love
reply
that.
in, like, say, the next 12 hours or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So what
love
has
that.
been a case study that you've
Mm-hmm.
figured out or you most proud of?
Yeah, I think the cases that work the best for me and for my clients really have centered on the building the email community and regular touch points. So whether that's a newsletter or some other kind of modality that you're regularly in front of them in their inbox. I read some recent statistic that folks who are selling digital products directly to it via their social media, right, are seeing
Yeah.
like a less than 1% return versus those who are selling to their email community can see up to like 5 to 8%. And so I really think that is, identifying the fact that it's so valuable to have quality subscribers. And again, it's not so much about having thousands and thousands, but it's about having people who really value what you're talking or writing about, and having direct access to them. Because like the social media platforms, their algorithms change at a drop of a dime, and so they're not always like a lot of Americans are experiencing with TikTok right now. They're having a lot of censorship happen, and they're not able to reach their people like they were, a year ago.
Previously reaching out, yeah.
Yeah, so that can really impact your business. So again, having those direct emails, so you always have a direct relationship with the people who are interested in what you have to say, is I think still the key.
Wow, I really appreciate this. Like, first build your email list or like newsletter is one way to reach out to people so that they know. And I'm always curious to understand, since this becomes a space, and we have some crazy segments coming up. Right now, do you think, like, I've been meeting a lot of professors and a lot of conversations around? have AI in your onboarding, have AI in your courses, or like AI can do these many things. So, how do you think you're still staying human? And secondly, do you think that people still want to stay human in this world? Because
Yeah.
like yeah, because I like there are two confusions. Some people are like of the idea that I don't mind talking to an AI or have an AI girlfriend or things like that, and I'm like guys crazy. I mean, like have a VR and have your girlfriend out there. Like, why do you want to even have human out here? So how do you navigate that? Like, and like since I've been traveling so much right now, this is like a crazy conversation for me. So what do you think? Like, how do you like on the contrast opinions? Well, how do you work?
I love this question so much about like, do people want to be human? Like, it is such a vibe, like real. That was a real question because the data that we're seeing from people's behavior is just like maybe you don't like other humans very much. And I think that speaks to some loss that even our as great as our technology has been over the past 50 100 years, that we there has been some loss in the ability to be in nuanced, platonic, respectful relationship with other human beings, right? Like
Hmm.
just being able to be comfortable in disagreement, to be comfortable in having different opinions or having different orientations of what's important to life, but still being respectful about it. I think a lot, and I'm American, so I'm heavily influenced here about like what this looks like in just our space. But even as I think about the rest of the world, the kind of interruption of social media and having so much of our lives online, and the ability to have that filter, right? Like have that little screen in between those two people has created, I think, this interference of like, you are actually not real. There's something about you that's not real, so I don't have to treat you as if you were real sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, that's just something around our human evolution in terms of our own consciousness, our own behavior, our own development as individual people that we will have to attune to. And I don't know. I to answer the question about how do I respond to it, I really don't. I don't like if I pick up that that's your vibe, that you don't think all humans are sacred beings and part of divine consciousness, that you're not respectful to women or people of color or people of different abilities, whether physical or neurological. Like I'm not interested in engaging with you. And whether I am recognizing that fact in a corporation, in an organization, certainly in the political realm, right? It's just like I don't want to engage because I cannot engage. You are literally saying that you do not respect me for the
Yeah.
identities that I embody. So I think I've learned enough from my life to be like, I don't waste my energy anymore trying to convince other people of my humanity. I will put that energy into connecting with people who already take that, for as an assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's yeah, I know somewhat there are lots of organizations kind of thinking and doing work around that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. They
that's
are.
enough for me. Yeah.
I really appreciate how direct you are with this thing, like I don't want to invest my energy into things
Nah,
that do not serve my
nah.
purpose, rather invest my time
Correct.
onto people where you have a certain
Correct.
alignment.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you identify and differentiate that there would be a lot of cases wherein your offer or services or product would be of no use to people
Yeah.
because of this.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, absolutely. I literally just did a IG video on this last night because I was just like, I'm not the designer for everybody. I talk about spirit and intercultural understanding, and I curse often. Like, I'm not the designer everybody wants on their curriculum team, but I am the designer if that resonates, right? I am the designer if you're looking for something, if you're looking for how do we teach beyond our cognition, how do we teach beyond the limitations of rationality and linearity? How do
Yeah.
we connect with people for with more layers of our humanity, right? Our somatic body and how our breath happens and what's going on in our emotional world and our spiritual orientation or practices and how that influences our behavior. How do we integrate that into what behavior we're trying to change? Those are the questions and the areas that I like to design courses and classes around. And if, that's, I recognize that that is not for everybody.
Right. And so it has been a great understanding of, how you've chosen these things. And we come to a segment wherein it's called 90 seconds to teach me something. So right now, if I put you on spot and I give you 90 seconds, what would you like to teach?
I would love to teach one of my core methodologies, which is about discerning, telling, teaching, and or training. Like,
Yeah.
what are the differences between the three?
Okay.
So, so I'll start by just saying that it's really important for entrepreneurs to know the difference and know when they're doing one or the other, right? Because the
Yeah.
goals and the outcomes are all significantly different. So when you're
Correct.
telling, you're informing, right? I like to have the icon of a bullhorn, right? It's just you putting information out there, and they can be stories, but the goal is about inspiration, is about sparking momentum. Teaching is about explaining. You're explaining context and relationship. And so the icon here is about the whiteboard, right? You can imagine, like, I'm drawing out here and how this process is connected to this process. So the goal is about retention and assessment, because you want to have that pattern recognition about how things are interconnected.
Yeah.
Training is about application to real life. So it's the practice, it's the failure, it's the learn by doing the thing. And so the goal there is experimentation, piloting, and iterating over time. So when you're creating a digital product or a course or a program and you're telling people you're going to be training them to transform their life by applying all these new ideas that you have, and yet all of your course curriculum is telling, it's just information, 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 you're not going to get the results of giving them opportunity to experiment, pilot, and iterate over time. So be aware of what you're actually doing, and so that you can stay in integrity in what the actual outcomes will be.
Wow, that's really like insightful to understand that it's so important and that integrity and relevance is important. However, if you're having all these core components as well, I'd love to touch upon the concept of how diversity has been practiced out there. And we talked about DEI the other day as well. So since even though all the qualities I do have, do you think right now it is difficult to combat the essence? Like, do you think that you need like someone who has a different ethnicity or someone from a different diverse background for them to have a foot in the door or breakthrough or onboard the clients? Is it easy? Is it based? Does diversity impact it? Or it is still based on, hey, if you can solve this for me, I want to work with you. I don't care about
Mm,
diversity or anything. I just care about the work. So I'd love to work with you because I love you as a person,
mm.
and this is not an aspect. So do you think that like what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's a mix of both. I have never been a believer that we live um, in a world that is flat with its value,
Yeah,
right? In that
yeah,
in that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
assumption that if you have the skills, you will be trusted to share those skills. Like, I just have never believed that we live in that world. And so that it's a mix of, yes, have the skills and have the relationship competency in order to build trust with people that you are just meeting. And so you have to get comfortable talking to people, sharing about your life, sharing about how other people have trusted you in the past to solve this problem, and being able to, I think, highlight what the benefits are of your own understanding of your cultural or social identity. I think as we get deeper into the world of AI and AI slop, that a lot of people are kind of using that terminology, right? We're being trained to notice what's coming out from AI versus what's coming out from creative, original humans. And people are gravitating towards the creative, authentic, unique personality traits, right? And so I think it's really valuable for humans to be their authentic selves, and that they will magnify or attract other people because they're living an authentic life to themselves.
I really appreciate this conversation around the norm as to how this works and think of it from different angles as well. Like, I think the relationship comes first, and then how can you solve that problem? So, irrespective of any other dynamic or things going out there, if you have a certain relationship with a group of people, community, or individual people, that is more important. And then how can you solve the problem that they're coming up with than anything else? So, this
Yeah.
narrative shapes a lot of like gives answers to a lot of questions that even people have in this space as to we're not competent, why would someone want to work with us, or
Mm-hmm.
like all the challenges that I think our brain sometimes has, or how the news feeds those challenges in our
Yeah.
minds. So
Yes.
this answer is a very key component to that as well. And with that, we have this segment, it's called 7 questions to fame. So
Yes.
once you're ready, I'm ready to throw 7 questions along your way.
All right. I'm ready for it.
Okay, so to start with, what do you think is really important right now to learn in the AI segment? Like, you think that this skill is related to AI is something people should know when they're trying to run their online business out there?
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I think it's important to learn and discern what's valuable, what your market, what your customers think is valuable. Partnership with AI. So for example, like my clients, I give them an opportunity to identify on a spectrum of how much they want AI to be in partnership during the building of their curriculum. Some people are heavily, I don't want anything, I don't want AI to touch any of my, again, right, intellectual property, what my expertise is. I don't want AI to touch any of it. And other people are just like, I'm cool with it for whatever, however it works and supports you. So I think we're more entrepreneurs are going to have to find that spectrum for themselves, right?
Yeah.
What level of interaction or partnership am I comfortable in offering my services to be more flexible to what my customers are wanting?
Great. And when it comes to working in distributed teams, you work with collaborators in Kenya, Philippines, Nigeria, states itself. How do you navigate these cultural challenges within the team and still have a sync within that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have been lucky, I consider myself lucky to feel normal. Like my sense of normalcy is having a dispersed international team. When
Yeah,
it's not that, it feels unusual and uncomfortable and somehow limited. So I really think about it as they are benefiting my work by sitting somewhere else on the globe, by having different kinds of
right.
relationships, by orienting and to, life in a different way. I get fed, I get nourished, I get improvements in my work, in my operations, in my workflows because of their experience. So that is, I always see it as a benefit, as an add. And yes, are there challenges around communications and expectations and interpretations of work? Yes, but that is always, like, I could sit with another American right beside me, right, and we could have all of those kinds of challenges. So that is just a leadership skill to develop. It doesn't really have much to do about that because someone is from a different country, that they have, that somehow makes it more difficult. I take it upon myself as, like, if I want to be a leader from a global perspective, I need to learn the skill of cross cultural communication and understanding what those nuances are from where they're coming from, and being really, really clear in what my expectations are and how much wiggle room we have for growth, etc. So I consider it a great benefit.
And that's really interesting. So, if you had to explain it to me in one sentence, how to build a community that stays, how would you do that? Could be two as well.
That's challenging. How to build a community that stays in
Stays,
terms
yeah.
of duration of time. So,
That like you have engagement going on. It's like people stay relevant. It's a relevant community for
mm,
people, and people engage. So it's not that you start and it's dead after a certain point in time, but it's an engaged space for people to come, talk, and stay.
yeah, okay, okay. I think to create a community that stays, you serve them from a place of authenticity and building valuable content that benefits their life.
Wow, that's really interesting and relevant as well. And when it comes to your insight on how founders can design programs that support real transformation, how do you create that container so that that product is transformational on more on the transformational side of it?
Yeah, I think transformation really speaks to what we were saying in the beginning about supporting people in becoming a new version of themselves, right? And like actually meeting that version. So it's really about clarity, like what actually is the thing. Like, so you're not selling transformation, you're selling the ability to communicate more clearly when on a stage, right? You have to get specific, really, really specific and concise about what actually you are selling of that transformation, and then creating those milestones of practice. And so you have to go practice speaking in front of public in order to become a TEDx speaker, right? Like you have to do certain things in order to reach that version of yourself.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, you
having
do.
very clear things for them to go do, not just information that they need to know, is going to be critical for your course curriculum. And then I think we continue to go back to that authenticity piece about like you being the demonstration of that example of that changed person. Running an online business, running any business, you are the face of it. You are the right the kind of lighthouse of it. And so you have to demonstrate that you can deliver this to other people because you embody it already. And I think a lot of people kind of skip out on that or think that that's not as important, but it absolutely is.
Wow. And the last question would be, what's that one habit that one should have in order to hit their first $1 million with their business?
Oh, well, I don't know if you should take advice from me about this because I've not yet hit $1 million in my business, but it is a goal for me. I think it is about authenticity, consistency, and owning your growth edges, right? Like so much of entrepreneurship is, I like to call, a spiritual development journey. Like you will see your shadows, the stuff about you that you don't like. You'll have to confront all your money fears. Like all of that stuff shows up in your entrepreneurial journey. So you have to be willing to engage and grow continually over and over again and do what feels really hard. But if you're consistent with that and you're committed to that and being of service, you will make your way there.
Wow, that's really amazing. And with that, we come to the last segment. It's called as deep dive. So, as of now, if you think that there has been something that we should be talking in detail or we haven't touched, I'd love for you to take this time to talk and address that thing which you think is very relevant for the listeners out there, those who are listening to you.
I think I would love to share just a little bit about the moment that we're in. I think globally we're seeing like this beautiful chapter and opportunity of a lot of constriction and control and attempt to limit in terms of our creativity and our expression and our money making opportunities, etc. And with constriction, there is all, and with that pressure, I think there is always the possibility of then release. And so I feel like we're in a really beautiful moment of listening to that inner voice within you, learning how to discern what that whisper is on your heart, and not just the fears or the inner critic, right? But you have to learn how to discern what it actually is saying, because I feel like that is the source of our solutions for humanity for the next 50 years. Those solutions are coming from within us. We're coming from, particularly from entrepreneurs. They're sensing the solutions to problems right now. And so we have to trust ourselves to bring those out and materialize them. So that's like the first point, is about the doing the inner work to listen for the solutions that are coming through you to serve our global family. And then the second point is around recognizing that despite AI, despite the big bang and popularity of digital products over the last 5 years, and now kind of the settling down of it, and I would say despite the major influencers announcing that they're going to close their courses, and courses are dead and there's no space for that, I think all of that is kind of saying to us that we need to have better discernment about what we actually need and what
Hmm.
is actually going to be of service to people. So, like I was saying earlier, AI can give you all kinds of data, but it can't give you human authenticity. It can't give you human guidance. And that, I think, is really still a viable way to be of
Right,
service and
right,
to
right.
design digital products around your authenticity. So that's why it's critical for us to listen to what wants to emerge within us, right? And then be grounded enough to create your product or service around what is trying to emerge through you. And that contrast and that uniqueness is really going to allow you to, I think, skyrocket. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of my clients, is their uniqueness is expressing and attracting the attention that they need.
Thank you so much, Nina, for this. This has been so enlightening and informative about different aspects of this. And I've learned so much through all
Good.
these things as well. And I'm really hopeful about people connecting with you, your voice, and authenticity at its core. Because amidst all the voice, it's your authenticity that's gonna stay. And that has been a key learner about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to end this with the last note to it, one advice for one advice that you would like to lead the world with.
hmm. I think the world is asking us to come alive. One of my favorite quotes by Howard Thurman, who was a mystic and spiritual teacher for Martin Luther King Jr., he is known for this beautiful quote that says, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." So let us bring ourselves alive and create from there. And that will serve what the world needs.